The 2-2. Lasered out towards left field. Will it go? See you later, softball. Chance for a card to get ahead early. The 0-2, swing and a miss again. 6 strikes, 2 Ks in a row to end the inning. A lot of action earlier in the year. Working her way back. Solid contact, rolling right to Depies. The throw home. Tag is in time.
Batted .232.
Depies, solid contact. The laser splitting the outfield, and it'll drop. First hit of the day for BU. Depies makes her way to second, standing up. Wind dying down a bit, curling over the head of Depies. That's going to go down for a base hit. Can avoid a 3-pitch strikeout here. That one placing perfectly, caught looking, strike 3.
Conversation before today.
That one right to the pitcher. Johnson, a clean snag on a line drive, and that'll do it. And it was in game 1. It was a 2 RBI shot. That one won't be a homer, but it will drop. 1 run scores for BU. Another heading home. Apollo with a 2 RBI shot. And suddenly this is a 4-0 ball game. Welcome back to Boston. That's a look at the interim head coach for the Lafayette Leopards, Kilner Kraushaar, who was put into a big spot 2 weeks before the season, being named interim head coach, a veteran of the Patriot League after being a 4-year letter winner at Holy Cross. And interestingly enough, Joe, that was not the shortest notice she's ever had to be an interim head coach.
Absolutely not. I mean, she goes, first off, I just got to give her credit for what she's done this year, not necessarily the record.
Lions trying to loop that one in, but ultimately bounces foul.
But just the positivity that she had. We mentioned it at the top, that Lafayette, you can see that the vibes were high. They were very positive, not worrying about this is the last regular season weekend. We're fighting for a playoff spot. And they exude that from their coach when we talked to her earlier this week.
Lions, this is a laser going into right field. Is it over the head of O'Neill? Yes, it is. Lions dashing the second and slides on in. 2 hits for BU and 2 doubles. It's Cameron Lyons getting the inning started.
Well, for the great throw that O'Neill had in that first inning, she makes a mistake here. Just sitting on the off-speed pitch was Lyons. Great way to get it into right field, but O'Neill took a couple of steps in forward. That's where she made the mistake. She took steps in forward, and then she had to retreat as the ball went over her head. So, like we said, balances out. A great throw on that double play in the first inning. A misread on that fly ball here in the second.
7th double of the season for Cameron Lyons, the freshman out of Illinois. And here's Olivia DeLong. She's in her junior years, listed as a pitcher. And for the first time just a couple weekends ago, she pitched collegiately, but has mostly been a DP here this season with the Terriers.
And it's been this bottom part of the lineup here that BU's been trying to figure out. Your top 3 are locked in. Lyons, I think, has probably solidified that cleanup spot, but then 5 through 9, where do you go? And DeLong has been...
Late swing from DeLong. Easy pitch and catch from O'Keefe, the first for out number 1.
DeLong's been one of the players they've been trying to plug in, and obviously she did a good job there of pulling it to the right side. That's exactly what you want if you're a hitter. Advance that runner over to third base. Maybe we see her in the circle a little bit later today. Who knows?
Perhaps, although I'm sure if you're BU, you want to avoid that, given that she's essentially been your emergency pitcher, but has shown some flashes in her limited opportunities. Here's Sophie Nivar, who has not had a ton of starts this year, just her 11th, but again, right field being a little shaky as the season's gone on in terms of who can start. She's stepped up to the plate, started both games Wednesday in the doubleheader against Bryant.
And obviously what Coach Waters wants to do here with the lineup, regardless of who's in, she wants to go with those righties, 3 righties, 3 lefties, and then righties to finish it off. She wants that. You know, we've seen Addie Luce here in the lineup now and again, but we know Coach Waters loves to play those kinds of matchups with the lineup.
Nivar had a hit in both games of that Bryant doubleheader. She was 3 of 4 at a double and 2 runs on Wednesday in both games combined. The 1-1 Kluge to slide to her left to get that one, 2-1. And again, one last note on Kellner Kraushaar, Lafayette's interim head coach. You know, she obviously played at Holy Cross for 4 years. She also came from Holy Cross this year. She was an assistant there last year. So not only is she thrown into the fire this season as the interim head coach, but it's her first year with the program entirely.
I mean, she's done an incredible job. Obviously, you know, what she talked about with us, it was a rough start to the season, obviously starting 0-18, some really tough non-conference games. But once she got into the Patriot League schedule of things, the team has looked much better.
Here's a walk for Nivar. First walk allowed today by Lecky in the Leopards. Kaomi Apollo, a player who's seemingly gotten better as the season's gone on. Sophomore out of Martinez, California. She's up now for the Terriers.
I think this last stretch of games has shown that she deserves to be an everyday player in the lineup. I know they tried her at shortstop when Libby Walsh went down with the injury, but her bread and butter is at third base. You saw it in that last out of the last half inning. Even with the bobble, she's able to make a strong throw and get that final out over at first. And then she's come up with some timely hits, not just big hits, timely hits.
Last 3 games for Apollo, she's gone 4 of 8, scored a run, 2 doubles, and 6 RBIs. Pretty good. Runner on the move, and Nivar, sacrifice bunt, bobbled, sliding home as Lions. Apollo reaches safely. Best case scenario for the Terriers, who strike first.
What did I just say? Timely hits, no matter how small. That was a great bunt, and that was obviously the suicide squeeze. I think Lions got a great jump there. The minute that ball went down, she was off to the races, and it was slow enough where you had over there at third base Harrington get to it too late. The Lions was able to get in there easily.
Again, that was set up because that ground out from DeLong allowed Lions to advance to third, so runners were in the corners. Here's Libby Walsh, who had been batting from the left side when she first came back, now is batting back in her usual spot from the right, hitting in the 8-hole today.
The curious case of Libby Walsh, and we were here when that injury was sustained. It's amazing she's continued to play through it.
When we were talking, as that off speed is a bit wide of the zone 1-1, we were talking to Ashley Waters earlier this week. You know, a fractured bone in your hand does not feel good for anybody, and you remember she slid back to third trying to get to home in that Kentucky doubleheader. That's when the injury was sustained. Typically an injury like that to fully heal takes 6 to 8 weeks. She missed only 4 games. And she's found other ways to get on the field, whether it's running, maybe trying a new position in the field, but getting a little stronger and stronger as the season goes on. 2 balls and a strike. Lecky delivers. Walsh poking and foul ball. But again, she's making contact. She's looking strong out there given her situation.
And she's obviously had to adjust her hitting. You can see, at least from our vantage point, that the hands are not close to each other. They're a little bit apart. That tells you that she's trying to use the opposite part of the field. So that's just that's how she's had to adjust with the kind of injury that she has. But as you said, contact.
2-2 on the way, right to the legs of Lecky, bouncing over to the second baseman O'Keefe, who makes the tag on second in time, but that does allow Walsh to reach 2 outs.
I mean, intentional or not, what a play there by Lecky. That literally bounces over to second perfectly to O'Keefe. If that hadn't gotten Lecky, that would have been right up the middle, potentially a run scored. Heads up there by Lecky, and a near double play at that one.
Sometimes all you need is a good bounce, and that's what they got there. Never know when it bounces at the legs where that could go, and happened to be right towards O'Keefe. As looks like we already have a substitution, so Kieran McHugh takes the spot of Olivia Christopher in the order before Christopher even gets an at-bat. McHugh is someone who started in place of Walsh when she missed time and looked pretty good in her opportunities.
Well, I think this is Coach Waters going with the matchup here. You can see that the lefties have had some success against Lecky so far this year. And McHugh has obviously shown that she can do it as a left side hitter.
The 0-1, runner taking off. Walsh sliding hands first to second. Gets there in time with the runner heading home in plenty of time. Now Walsh has to race back to second and no throw is made. How about the heads-up awareness from Nivar? It's 2-0 Terriers.
I mean, that was a great heads-up play. I was a little confused as why she didn't take off right away when the throw was down to second. That's obviously the kind of play you want to do, but I think it was sort of a misread there at second base by O'Keefe. I think she wanted to cut it off to try and keep the runner over at third, but the throw went a little bit over her head, and then you had the shortstop Hall who was covering misplay it. That just made it easier to score Nivar.
Well, remember, we saw Depies hesitate a little earlier on in this game, and then some hesitation from Nivar, who, again, has not been an everyday player this year. Maybe hasn't been in that situation a whole lot, but had enough space to make the play happen. So 2-0 Terriers and a 1-1 count for McHugh, who lifts that one between left and center field, and again it drops. Bouncing over the wall, ground rule double for Kieran McHugh.
Again, Coach Waters going with the matchup. The lefties have had some great success.
It's an RBI, 3-0 Terriers, as Walsh able to head home safely.
Yeah, see, watch here, great piece of hitting. Going to the opposite field. This is what made that BU lineup so successful this year, is everyone was doing it in the lineup, especially that bottom half. Coach Waters pushed the right button. McHugh rewarding the coach for that decision.
How about that? So 4 hits for the Terriers, 3 of them have been extra base hits. As back to the top of the order we go, and Kylie Doherty, who grounded out to begin the first inning. But a streak of 4 straight batters reaching for the Terriers, looking to keep that going. McHugh with a bit of a leadoff, second shuffles back. A good count for Doherty, 2-0.
Yeah, and the big thing that this lineup has done for BU is they've been sitting on those off-speed pitches. The drop curve has been the pitch that they have been taking for a ride. Lecky might need to throw in some velocity, a little bit of fastball.
Doherty strong contact, but angles foul and out of play.
Now, to me, that's an encouraging sign. Just like in the first at-bat, these are hard contacts. They've just been, some of them have been bad luck. Some of them have just been on the ground. But when she's getting hard contact and lift, like on that foul ball, good things might be on the horizon.
3 hits, 3 runs in this inning for BU. A high off-speed pitch from Lecky, 3-1. Very young pitching staff for Coach Croushore and Lafayette this year. Lecky, a freshman. There's been some growing pains throughout the season. 3-1, swing and a miss. She got her on the fastball, and a full count coming up.
Yeah, she was swinging for the fences on that one. It's almost like all these hitters have been sitting dead red on those off-speed pitches.
Big spot here for both these teams. Full count, 2 gone. Terriers already scoring 3. Doherty, a chop swing over to short. Throw to first in time, but not before 3 runs score for BU, who take the early lead. 3-0 as we head to the third on ESPN+.